You're watching EVH and Gear TV, brought to you by Stewart Travel Guitars. See the incredible stowaway travel guitar at stewartguitars.com. Microphones for EVH and Gear TV are provided by Rode Microphones. And official Van Halen merchandise is provided by VanHalenStore.com. Here's your host from Ontario, Canada, EVH artist Eric Broadbent.
Okay, so see what happens when I try to be a comedian. I try to make a funny joke, and everything goes on a train wreck and pulls us all off the tracks. Hopefully everyone can hear us now. I broke a cardinal rule of broadcasting and just trying new gear. And we'll talk about that tonight because Guitar Hack here is my guest this evening. We're going to talk about his successful gigging career here. And one of the things I always tell people not to do, and I've said it before on the show before, is don't try out brand new gear at a gig. Take it home, practice with it, all that kind of stuff, but don't use it live at a gig. And what I was doing, okay, good. We're getting all kinds of a good thumbs up and stuff like that now from the chat,
okay,
so that's good.
Cool. We got 23 people back, so
good. We're doing good.
Cheers,
Thank you so
everybody.
much, everybody, for your patience.
Thank
I was
you so
using a
much.
different mixer, and everything was working good beforehand, and it's my own fault. So I apologize for letting a hack down here. Anyways, nice to have you back. You had me on your show about a week back, which I was thrilled about, but I'm really excited to have you here.
No, it's like, again, we'll start again.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, like I was saying to you, it was kind of a real surprise to see the invite today, and I was thrilled to do it. And thank you so much for inviting me. And this is a blast. It's weird. This is weird.
It is,
because like it was weird for you a week ago. It's weird for me now. It's like to be on the other side of the, And I was just saying this to somebody the other day. Like, I don't think I've ever been interviewed. I've been doing all the interviewing, so this is like totally out of left field. But thanks again for inviting me.
Oh, my sincere pleasure. I know we were looking forward to it here. Everybody here in the family likes you as well too. So
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, you're good. You're good people, man. So we're looking forward to it. But I know what you mean. Like, I was panicking a moment ago too because everything was going off the train tracks, and as much as you feel awkward being on the other side of it, like when I'm a guest on your show, you're a guest on mine now, that pressure somewhat is off you. There's still pressure.
Yeah.
You're still nervous and all that kind of stuff, but you're not worrying about all these buttons are going to go wrong or, speaking, in a different language with a wrong mixer or something. So it's nice. Well, listen, I know a lot of people, a lot of the people that come over from your channel, we share some of the similar viewers. But there's some people that might be new seeing you tonight. Probably not too many that don't recognize you here. But maybe kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself, when you got into music, and kind of take us from that journey of a young kid getting into music the first time and to where you are today.
Wow. Okay. Well, when I got into music, I was probably 10, 11-year-old kid. And, I was listening to a lot of stuff on the radio, AM radio, because that's what, family around was listening to. And I liked music, but it didn't really grab me. What got me was when I first heard heavy guitar, and the first records that kind of blew me away were like Aerosmith. Still one of my favorite records of all time, "Toys in the Attic" by Aerosmith. I think that's one of the top records ever. Nazareth, all that, Heart, early Heart, all that kind of stuff, and thought that stuff was really cool. And then this one kid one day shows up to school. I would have been in grade 5, would have been like 10, and he shows up to school and he's got this magazine, and there's these guys in this magazine wearing makeup. I'm like, what the hell? What is this? And then I had a childhood friend, a couple houses up, got a record with these guys on, and he's like, here, listen to this. And it's like, that was the marriage. That was the heavy guitar, and then the image. And that was it. I was done. And I'm 52, and I'm still done.
Still love it.
That was it. Yeah. So, that was it. And then wanting to play guitar came when I was about 12. And I had a bunch of kids in the neighborhood that were all taking guitar lessons. And, of course, they were all taking guitar lessons. I wanted guitar lessons, but my parents wouldn't go for it because, it's a phase. It's a phase that's lasted 40 years. So, I had no guitar, no way of buying one. I mean, I'm a 12-year-old kid, so I had a neighbor that had an acoustic guitar. It was actually belonged to his sister, and it sat in a closet, and it wasn't touched for years. And, it came up in conversation, and then I very boldly said, would you mind if I borrowed that?
Cool.
And he lent it to me, and that I had that thing for about a year or two. I mean, it was the worst. The strings were like a good inch and a half off the fretboard.
Ouch.
Yeah, and since I didn't have lessons or whatever, I just tried to teach myself songs and watching concerts. I remember CTV used to show concerts on Fridays and Saturday nights and all that.
Okay.
And I'd look at the guys' hands
To see where they're playing.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I see the guy, his hand is in this certain position, and it sounds really good. Oh, that's a bar chord. What? You can move them around? Awesome. So I just started writing my own songs because I didn't know, it was just a really bad way to start, right? But that's basically it.
Well, you got into it and you stayed with it. I like how you mentioned as well too, a 40-year fad, and being a parent, sometimes the kids, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and I get it too. It's like you're gonna give that up in two months, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But music, that's good, and these days too, for kids, we need to get them more kind of off the technology. I mean, you can use some of the technology to your advantage or learning music. But, get off the games a little bit and get a guitar or get a keyboard or something and then really apply yourself. Because there are a lot of studies showing, too, that if you succeed in music, it can help you in school unless you take it to the extreme opposite, where like you become so good in music that you drop your school to do it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily encourage that. You got to have a nice balance. And that's like that one young guest I had on the other night. You were in the chat for a little bit, Tyler Morris.
Yeah.
I keep calling him a kid. He's not a kid. He's a very young adult.
Yeah.
But he's smart. He's school smart. He's got college degrees and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very important because if the chances of being successful in music and being able to make bank on that for the rest of your life are very slim. I don't want to discourage anyone from trying, but you need to have something to fall back on. Look at what's his name? John Levin, is that his name? The guitar player that's kind of replaced George Lynch and Dokken. He's like an attorney, right?
Oh, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, he's an attorney. So, and I think he's actually the band's attorney. So that's a pretty good
there
gig.
You go.
Yeah, that's a pretty good gig to fall back on if music goes to bust.
Yeah. I mean, I found another kid that played guitar. He was a couple years older than me, so I would have been like 13 or 14. No bass players, so it was just two guitars and drums. And we were playing Kiss songs and 100,000 Years and Black Diamond and all this kind of stuff. And I absolutely loved it. I just loved it.
I enjoy Kiss a lot to this day. Now, I mean, it's people will complain and they're this and that, and they're not super talented musicians, for the most part. But I mean, sometimes some of the simplest things in life are some of the, like in music, I should say, are some of the hardest. I mean, it's hard to play some simple things. Like I was trying to drill this fact home on some Van Halen theory. You look at some of the simplest rhythms, even like Running with the Devil. He's playing such a slinky swing feel in almost all of his music that the average person, including myself, I can't, because I come from that 4/4 kind of right on the beat kind of school. Even though I've been feeling and living Eddie's music for life, it's so hard to get in that swing if it's not in your blood. So simple things are hard.
It's got a groove. At the end of the day, whatever you play has to groove.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Van Halen had a lot of groove.
Yeah.
And I could say that Kiss had some groove too back in the day.
I agree. Wasn't it? Because I remember listening to Kiss Live too, and it was one of the favorite things I loved. Didn't Peter Criss do his drum solo like in 100,000 Years? That really long extended drum solo, isn't that? Yeah, and it reminded me as a kid of a helicopter. Just that he had some kind of like a tribal beat going on, whatever. And for a real long time, it sounded like a helicopter, like like that kind of sound. It was so cool.
Yeah, he was using the phaser on the drums, and he modeled that after his. It was basically kind of modeled off for Gene Krupa, who was his drum idol, had something similar to that, and that's where he kind of modeled that whole solo off. Yeah.
Okay. Well, didn't John Bonham do some phasing and flanging too on his stuff? I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. There was a time back in the 70s where all the drummers were using flanges.
Yeah. So that was the thing, right? That was the secret sauce of the day.
It made them sound like they were playing a lot faster than they were.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like like today we use delay and lots of distortion, and maybe speed it up a tiny bit if we have to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool, man. Well, yeah, Ace Frehley is probably a lot of not everybody's, but a lot of the people that watch this show. I'd say Ace Frehley's on the list of guitar heroes, and he's he's got a smaller book. Like if we all have a book of vocabulary of musical chops, I have a small book as well too. I consider my book to be a few pages, and I'm one of those one-trick pony kind of guys, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I also like to have my own ingredients for my recipes. I like to have my delays and reverbs and things like that. That's very, very important to me. I like a certain amount of distortion. Like if I was ever asked to play on like Eddie's Plexi, I would probably sound horrible because it's not my comfort zone. But Ace Frehley, with a very small vocabulary of tricks, he does it amazingly. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, he's a strictly pentatonic player.
Yep.
Pretty much. But the thing is, what I find, and I got to talk about the blues a little bit.
Sure.
Where you've got guys that pretty much that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a real art how these guys, Ace Frehley and anybody that kind of just plays strictly and dedicates themselves to those 5 notes, how much mileage that they can get out of those 5 notes. It's the analogy I use is like, okay, try to write a novel with 15 words or something.
Yeah.
And keep it interesting. Exactly.
And you read it once, you're never going to want to hear it again. It becomes so cliche. But the riffs, they're kind of timeless. They span an infinite amount of time and still really cool. Like I saw.
And the thing is, you take a riff that you've heard a million times, and what Ace would always do is he would just change one thing, and then it becomes something else.
Mm-hmm.
He's like an encyclopedia for blues rock riffs.
Yeah,
really. That whole Kiss Alive record. If you learn all those riffs, like you got. You're good. You're good to go.
I remember as a young kid, I was lucky because I had a lot of music influence in my family, like right directly in the house, like with 2 sisters and 2 brothers. They all played guitar, but not really professionally. They just always had a guitar. So there's always a guitar sitting around. But the cooler factor was my sisters always dated pro musicians. And if they would ever break up with them, I would be like the intermediary, kind of like the hostage negotiator. Like, why you guys can't break up? What can we do to make this work? Because I need this knowledge from these guys, right?
Yeah.
And one guy become a professional recording artist, a signed artist in California, put some good stuff out. But they were teaching me all this stuff, and it was so nice to have that. But one of the boyfriends of my sister's, he was from Greece and a phenomenal guitar player, and he says, I'm going to show you some riffs and cliches. And he goes, I forget what all of them were, but you could take a couple things that Hendrix would do. He took a couple of the Chuck Berry type riffs that Ace Frehley is known for. The 3-string bends kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he said once you look at everything as a riff and cliche, it really breaks down a lot of the music that you listen to. And I think there are no more than a dozen, and you could have covered any genre of music by these 12 riffs and cliches. And I would give anything to have had video cameras back in that day, because this would be back, I don't even know. Well, I mean, there were video cameras, but I mean, most people didn't have them. This is like in the 80s, right?
Yeah,
I just wish I could have recorded that lesson. But the funny thing is about it is this guy was a phenomenal player. He had a black Les Paul, kind of like your Blackie, which we'll look at in a little bit. And this would be probably like a very early 70s, so it'd be a nice guitar. And he would come in, and we'd be practicing in my dad's hangar where he kept his airplanes and stuff like that. That was our rehearsal place. And he would say, "Here, let me just plug in. I'll show you a couple of things." And then he would plug in to my rig, and he'd be playing with the band. I'd be sitting there back, and he was just smoking, right? And then I go back to plug in, and then the guy's like, "Can we just have him play?" And I'm like, "Oh," he's like, "Thanks for stealing all my thunder." You know what I mean? I was like, "Okay, go now, get out, don't come back in again." And I don't think I ever invited him back to band practice again.
Yeah,
because he showed me up. Well, we can talk about a bunch of guitars, man. Let's go say hi to a whole bunch of people over here. First of all, thank you to all those people over there that were patient with a little bit of a technical glitch at the beginning. So Nocturnal Butterfly is here, as always, running the chat efficiently like she always does. So thank you so very much. Scott Roos, Andy Dawson, Charles Green, Dale Palmer, Gary Davlin, Rick Hefner, Blimpus, Brian Cote. I saw his stream just a few minutes ago before ours here. He was doing some jams with some backing tracks, sounding really, really good. Mars Man, Chuck Booth, Dwayne Doucette. I hope I'm saying that right. Brock Stubblefield, much better. So everyone's giving us positive feedback on the Audio Fender Gurus here. Todd Flowers. And boy, that first part flew by. That was our fastest 90 minutes ever.
Yeah, it was quick, eh?
Yeah, that was really fast. Billy Shelton is here as well, too. Quentin James. All right, where everyone's giving us the positive on the sound. That's good. R2R3 is here. Good to see you. Dry Heat 480.
Hey, guys.
Hey to us. Evan Ward, Todd Flowers, Showman Blues. Let me see here. Hugh Caldwell. Let me see here. Daniel Horsley, Andy Dawson, sound is okay. It's awesome. Brent McCord. Yeah, I guess I had to leave the one stream, come directly to the channel. So, fortunately, you guys figured it all out. That's good. Scott Connor.
Thanks.
Yeah, we appreciate it. JJ's House of Jams is here. That's cool.
Hey, JJ.
You had him on. I didn't see that show, but you had him just the other day, didn't you?
I had him on Tuesday.
Okay, cool. He's always got great stories, doesn't he?
What's that?
He's always got great stories.
You know what? His story is great. If you haven't checked that show out, go check it out. JJ's got a good story, good history, man.
I will. I'll check that one out for sure. I definitely will. RJ Mad One is here. Show My Blues. Okay, you mentioned that. Hugh Caldwell. Absolute Mayhem is here. Nice to see you.
Hey, Mayhem.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I mentioned Hadley Scott McIntyre's here. Let me see here. Let me scroll down a little bit further here. Brent McCord, gotcha. It's hard to remember sometimes if who you've said hi to. Zach Thong is here as well, too.
Hey, Zach.
Will Varela. And I think we're almost down the bottom. I see that Quentin fellow. He keeps stalking all of our channels, doesn't he? I know, that Quentin guy. Yeah. Okay, let me see here. All right, I'm going to get back to where I left off there, and we'll come back to the chat here in a little bit. But anyways, this is a question I want to kind of learn through you. I've never owned a real Les Paul. I've had copies, good copies, really, really good copies, but never owned a true Gibson Les Paul. And I think every guitar player, even if you're not a Gibson Les Paul fan, needs a Les Paul, needs a really nice Stratocaster in their life, maybe a Tele sometime in their life. Have some of the staples, right? I've never been one of those that's craving a V, even though it'd be kind of neat. But it's not one I think you necessarily have to have. Tele's kind of cool, but a Strat and a Les Paul for sure. So from someone like myself who's never really owned one, and for someone like yourself who owns several and really love the product, tell us what it is about that style of guitar that just pulls you towards it and makes you shop for the really special ones. Oh, man. First of all, there's nothing better looking than a Les Paul guitar. Right off the bat, but you got to understand, and I've said this before, it's those first guitar players that you see that influence you, that burn those images into your brain. And Ace Frehley, of course, Jimmy Page being another one. I'd say primarily those two, and just watching them play Les Paul and playing the music that you love out of those instruments. And then when you're holding one, like when I've got one on and I'm hearing those same similar tones, those Les Paul, those just the tones that you've heard a million times off a million records that you absolutely love, and you're playing that that style of music or even those songs, and you've got that thing and you just look down and it's just, oh my God, it's just zone, right? There are not words. And there's other guitars that'll you can play the same music on. You can play anything on anything, right? Mm-hmm. But there's something about having the Les Paul, and it's the people complain, they're big, they're bulky, but if you cut a Les Paul in half, it's not a Les Paul. And they've tried, they make the thinner ones, and it just doesn't cut it. It has to be a full Les Paul, and here's where I probably rub people the wrong way. It has to look like a Les Paul. There can't be any tweaks to it. You're not putting a Floyd on that. Mm-hmm. You're not, putting a Robo tuner on that. It has to be the Les Paul that you grew up watching your heroes play. The iconic model. And it just feels great. It looks great. And I've played them for so long that they're just the most comfortable guitar for me to play. Without belly cuts or any of that. It just is. It's your thing. It's my thing. Yeah. Now, I think I heard you talking about on one of your streams that you would maybe change some tuners, but for the most part, do you keep everything stock, or what's the most that you'll do to a guitar after the, like a Les Paul guitar after the fact? What I've done, probably the most significant thing I've done to a Les Paul is I've swapped pickups. Okay. Yeah, because I really like the super low output pickups generally. Mm-hmm. Again, going back to the DiMarzio is kind of high output. That's what Ace used, but he used the super DiMarzios. But I prefer generally low output pickups. So I had a Les Paul once. I mean, we're going to get into guitars that we let go, and I've let go of many guitars. Mm-hmm. But this one had the 498 500T, which is those pickups. They put in a lot of Les Pauls over the years. They're ceramics. Okay.
and I'm just not a fan. So, I prefer, again, well, Alnico 5, which is the Burstbucker type. I love the 57s. I love the 61s. I love the P90s, which is right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be the most drastic thing I would do is I do a pickup swap. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
And do you keep the other ones just in case you ever want to swap it back and sell it back or something like that, or do you trade them off?
Well, you mean the parts?
You know, like the other pickups. Like, let's say you take a pickup out and you put a new one in. Do you get rid of the old pickups, or?
No, I sold them.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm not putting no ceramics in anything.
Right. Yeah, I thought maybe in case, like, maybe, God forbid, you want to trade in one, like a Les Paul now for another Les Paul, and maybe you put it back to factory and, pop in the original pickups. And
the one that I'm talking about, I sold it with the Burstbuckers in it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm starting to become a fan overnight of low output pickups. I never,
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could kind of go back in a time capsule and tell myself, 15 years ago, what I'm going to be doing. It's like, dude, you're going to be all digital. You're going to have a crazy mustache, and you're going to be using low output pickups. And I'd be like, go away, man, right? But I heard this story a couple different times from Mark Kendall from Great White was on the show, and he was the first person to tell me about this whole rabbit hole going down of low output pickups. He says he wants the output to be super, super low. He wants the pedals and the amplifier to take care of it from there. So makes sense. It's like if you have an audio mix right now, if I took my mixer, which I'm not going to use that one again, the good one, if I was to sit there and crank my microphone and drive it, to you, it's going to distort. But if I'm using a good clean gain microphone and I can crank the output, then it's a clean signal in, clean signal out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he mentioned Billy Gibbons. And I think, who was I talking to this about last night? I think I might have said it in your chat last night. We were talking amongst the fans in the chat, and I mentioned about the low output, and someone kind of echoed what I said about Billy Gibbons, low output pickups, and then he's using 7-gauge strings, and the person was saying, in theory, you're wondering how he gets any tone at all, but it's a monster tone.
He's got a fantastic tone, yeah.
And on paper, that doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
And with that Variax that I got the other day, it's shocked me as well too, because it kind of would strike you as a metal guitar. It looks like it's a metal player, the Shuriken.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And it's I believe it is a passive pickup. It looks like a typical EMG style pickup, whatever, but it is passive. And the output gain, one thing I did notice too, its height was very, very low. It was almost sunk into the cavity of the guitar. So I brought it up to where I feel it should be. And of course that brings a tiny bit more gain. But I'm so spoiled with all the Wolfgangs and all those guitars where you're looking at about a 15K output or 14 something up to a 16K output. That's pretty high. I don't know what this measurement is here, but it's making me observe things differently now. It's almost like, if you're wearing sunglasses that are polarized and you're seeing the sun and the the sky in a different color for years, and you take those glasses off, you're like, wow, that's actually quite nice. That's what it's like to my ears. It's like, holy cow, I've never really heard that before. And my first instinct was to go over and crank the gain. But I was like, no, this is sounding pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I could learn from people like you, some of the, the lower output gain stages.
Yeah, the lower output, I don't really use a lot of effects and processing either. Like I have pedals and I use pedals.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I'll have maybe, like if I'm playing something with gain, I'll have like one overdrive on and reverb and a touch of delay. And that's pretty much it.
That's good.
That's all. No choruses, no flange, no phase, no heavier delay. That's pretty much it. And then a lead boost when I get to that point. And that's pretty much how I go.
I think that's good too, because you control your own sound for most cases. Like you're not really, a lot of cases there's no sound man there, so it's just like you off the floor. So you're trying not to,
the floor.
Yeah, trying not to color it too much.
Yeah, creating tone on the fly. And like I'm up to 12 pedals on my board, but everyone gets used through the course of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Like some, they're not all on all the time.
No, of course.
But I'm switching things on and off from song to song based on, the type of material we're doing, because I got to do everything from like a 50s rockabilly tone to Green Day.
Oh, exactly. So you gotta cover a lot of territory.
Yeah. And I've got what I have right now will do that. And the other thing that's important is all the guitars that I have to be capable also of doing that. And pretty much that 90% of the time, that's going to be a humbucker guitar. I can do it with the P90 as well, though.
Mm-hmm.
But the Fenders, the Strat, not so. I struggle with the Strat and I struggle with the Tele to achieve those tones through the course of the night, because when I get to the heavier stuff, I need more meat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? Yeah.
I need those. I want those notes to sing. I want that sustain, and and I can't. I don't want to just crank a bunch of gain to do it, right?
No,
because
it's
just going to sound like crap, right? So that's the only thing I kind of struggle with. So that's why, for the most part, most of my gigging guitars are typically Gibsons.
Okay. I'm curious, when you mentioned you got 12 pedals on your board, are you using anything for like a line boost or a signal boost at all?
Like it's like for solo boost, you mean?
Yeah, or that, or just even for like boosting because with that many pedals, like trust me, I had that many as well at one time too.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But you're losing a little bit.
Well, if you want to call my EP booster.
Okay, I was just gonna say I didn't know if you had one because I have one I'm not using right now. If you didn't have one, I was gonna send it to you to try it. But how do you like that pedal? I like it.
I love it. It's actually, if JJ's in here, it's JJ's fault.
Yeah.
For me, let me just do a quick aside here. There's a lot of things that I love about this community, but one of the things is, man, if you got an issue or a question, or there's something that you wonder about, all you got to do is say the word. You're going to have so much information like right there.
I know.
And the beauty of it is, it's not just folks that read it in a brochure or a magazine.
Users.
It's people that are physically using it, and you know what I mean. Like it's good to go, right?
Exactly. It's
very useful information. But yeah, I use a booster at the end of my chain, and what that EP booster basically does is it does color your tone. I'll say that right now, but in a positive way.
It's warm.
What I find is it just sort of brings everything to life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So whatever's ahead of it, and you notice the difference where that's okay. I said I don't have all my pedals on all the time. That's the one that's on all the time.
It's the always on pedal. I did a review on that one. That's what I called it, the always on pedal. And I said, it's the way I described it is like the secret mojo, and it's to the point where if you turn it off, it's just to the point where you go, what am I missing? I'm missing something.
Something's missing, yeah.
But it's not like whoa. It's just something's different, right? Yeah. Well,
and I did a review of it as well. Like any piece of gear I have, I've done a demo on, and I have it's a boost pedal, but I've got the level at 0.
Me too. See, we're both using it the right way. I think there's no right or wrong way. And there's just a couple dB. It's probably more than a couple dB, probably 5 or 6. But where I used it for the longest time, I tried multiple places, and I was running it through the 5150 half stack, which is still behind me. I ran it, believe it or not, in the loop. And it was so warm. It just made, especially on the blue channel, that amp has 3 channels of really nice Fendery clean, a nice kind of, I would say, I wouldn't want to compare a Fender product to a PV product, but almost like a classic 50, or classic 60, whatever it is, in the dirty channel, and then a Mesa in the lead channel. But that EP booster on 0 in the loop, it's just like this really, really warm resonance that came to life out of the 412.
See, it's funny because I run everything in front.
I know. I heard you talking about that.
And that is the last pedal before it hits the amp.
That's good.
Yeah, and like I said, it's on all the time. Pretty much that and my reverb are on all the time.
Yeah, I think there's a couple pedals that would be always on, in my case too. Reverb for sure. EP booster. And delays. I'm kind of a guy that has to have delays. When I used to use pedals, I used to use 2 Boss DD3s, and sometimes at the exact same time. I kind of stole the trick from Satriani, and that DD3 is a beautiful pedal. I had some old ones, and the one worked with batteries, one didn't, and so I actually one only worked with batteries, so I had to actually use batteries in it. But I'd have one at around 250 milliseconds and one somewhere around 350 milliseconds.
Yeah.
You put those two together, and it's just a nice little. It's not a ping pong because you're running mono, but a nice ambiance. It was really nice.
Yeah. Well, I've got a flashback delay, and when I'm doing, like I was saying earlier, when I do like the 50s rockabilly, what's nice about that, and I highly recommend flashback delay by TC Electronics. It's got if I'm playing just regular stuff, I'll have it on the analog because I actually prefer the sound of an analog over a digital delay because I like that natural decay.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And if when I'm doing the 50 stuff, it's got a really good slapback on it.
Very nice.
So I'll just, and the only tweak I got to do is just turn that from analog to slapback, and there's my 50 tone.
Yeah, you're completely different. You've totally flipped a whole sound now just with one little touch.
Yeah, and it's nice. And as soon as you hit it, like we'll do Boys by the Beatles, or we'll do Summertime Blues, or some other songs that I'm not particularly fond of, but still, crowd loves it.
Yep.
But you know what? That just does the trick. It's the secret sauce.
There's one analog pedal. I haven't owned too many analog delay pedals, but one I had that I did really like was the MXR Carbon Copy Plus. That was a pretty nice one.
Yeah,
and it had a chorus, modulation thing in it as well too. So it just give you a nice little bit of a chorusy trem kind of feel to it. It was nice.
Yeah, people like that pedal a lot too.
Yeah. And see, now that I'm going all digital, it's kind of funny because they actually, Line 6 and Helix, there's actually a modeled EP booster, believe it or not, and it's actually called the Kinky Boost. And it works, I swear to God, the exact same way, the same tone. It's got even like the boost. Are you going to enable boost? You want boost, yes or no? And then how much you want? Or are you just using it for like the volume kind of surge, whatever? And I love it. It works really cool. But I'm also now being forced to go back and to really appreciate analog delay, because now that I've actually gone down the rabbit hole, I'm down into like several layers below the earth. I'm trying to recreate all the exact Van Halen tones over the years. And as you know, in the very first days of that era, not just with Van Halen, but in that day, we didn't have effects loops and things like that. We didn't have digital delays. He's slamming tape echoes to the front of a Marshall. The echoplexes and tape delays and all kinds of different stuff like that. And I normally don't like that. That's rubbing me up the grain the wrong way, because you really hear the delay overemphasized. But that's exactly what it was. You know what I mean? And it's funny because if you're just playing quietly and you hit a note, you hear that delay and it's really in your face. But the louder you get, it almost seems like you tend to don't hear it, which you'd think you'd hear it more. It's more
it blends better.
Yeah, it does. So then after a while, if let's say you think you got your mix at around 70%, and you think this can be crazy, and you'd almost need to bring it up to like 90% to even hear it. But you're supposed to keep it back in the mix. You don't want it to slap you in the face. It's just like for Ain't Talking About Love, a perfect example. You want that quick pop, 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 real fast, like a slap back, and just enough that if you stop for a millisecond, you'll hear the notes carry over. Then you've got it kind of in the right wheelhouse.
It's funny you mention that song, because I do that song with one of the bands I'm in, and cool. I'd play that riff and it would never sound right. And I go, what's missing? What's missing? It would never sound right. Yep. And then I was watching actually Paul Gilbert, one of his videos, and he was talking about that song, and he goes, and he meant, I don't know what it was. I can't remember the specifics of it, but all I remember is him turning on a delay. And as soon as he turned on the delay, there it is.
It came to life.
There's that song, and then I'm like, "You idiot, delay!"
I know who to
So then I set up a delay, and then I play that same riff, because you need that extra little, exactly. And that's all it was. But my ears weren't picking it up, and of course it's Paul Gilbert, right?
Yeah.
This guy's a master, and it's as soon as I popped that in there, and then I went to the next rehearsal, and I said, "Okay, let's try it now." And plus, I couldn't play it right. Mm-hmm. I wasn't playing it right. I'm like, this is not hard to play. Why does it sound like crap when I play it? And what it was that stupid delay wasn't in place. As soon as I put that in, it was fine. I've been playing it ever since.
That's really cool, because it's it's another one of those rules like I told you about. It's one of the we have a super chat from somebody here. I think that's from Showman Blues. Let's double check that. We'll come back to the chat here in a second as well too. Let me see.
Oh, he's got a question too. Awesome.
Yeah, I think he was asking about pickups. Let me find what he said there first real quick. Okay, there we go. Yeah, thank you very much, Showman, for that. I appreciate that greatly. Thank you so much. So let's address that actually right now. We'll come back and talk about the Ain't Talking About Love in a second. But he says, what are your favorite low output pickups for Les Paul? And I think you kind of mentioned a couple that you like, but maybe is there anything you'd recommend to people for low output?
I'll tell you. On one of my Les Pauls, I have pickups that they're boutique. I mentioned these a few times. They're called Sheptones. And they're boutique, but they're not crazy expensive boutique.
I've heard the name, but know nothing about them.
Yeah, so, you order them directly from Sheptone.
Okay.
It's spelled SHEP Tone. And he's got a variety of different pedals and descriptions and so on and so forth. And I bought this guitar. This is a 2005. It's got it's the one I've showed it on my channel. It's got the snotty green.
Oh, with the inlays, yeah.
Yeah, that one, right? But I tell you, man, those pickups, I think out of all my pickups, are the lowest output. And those pickups in that guitar sound fantastic. The Shep tones that are in that one specifically, and I can't recall the name, but it's either Jimmy Page pickups or Heartbreaker or something like that. You'll see it if you go on the website. And that's what I have in that guitar. And when I bought that guitar, those pickups were in it. And that's what, actually, going back to we were talking about earlier, you were saying about putting in the original pickups to sell a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that guitar I sold it for this one with the Shep tones.
Okay, there you go.
And I A-B'd them. And these Shep tone pickups absolutely blew those burst buckers away. And what was it? They were super low output. So you want to hear that. You want that 70s, like, Led Zeppelin crunch, because Led Zeppelin did not play with high gain.
No.
Just a little bit of breakup. You want that, and those sweet overtones. That guitar absolutely nails that tone, and that's why I got those pickups. So I would say those. I love 57s as well. I'd say those 57s overall. I have them in my SG. Burstbucker 1, Burstbucker 2. Those are the Alnico 3 version. Those are great. Yeah, those are a few.
Okay, good suggestions. I'm trying to think as well, too, who in the guitar community, I know I've watched on one of the live streams, I want to say somewhere between Steve from Boston or Tone King. One of those guys has got the same Les Paul with the same greeny inlays. Do you remember seeing one of those guys with one?
No.
I think it was it was either Tone King or Steve from Boston. I'm gonna try to find out and ask those guys, because they'll just say, because that's the one you were showing off. It's kind of neat. And were you saying you didn't like the green inlays, or it just wasn't?
Yeah, that for me is a turnoff. I mean, I get where they were going. They released those guitars. I think they did that. Mine is a 2005, so I think early 2000s, maybe even late 90s, they did that. And it was a 1960, sort of reissue. They had actually on the pickguard, it had 1960 gold embossed on it, which I got rid of. I put in another pickguard because I thought that was tacky as hell. But I guess they decided that, you know what, when a guitar ages, automatically the fret markers are going to go green. I don't know who thought that, but that's never happened. I've got a 2005 here. They don't look green to me.
Now, are you talking like kind of like oxidizing or even like a molding?
Yeah, but it's like actually they're known as the snot green inlays.
Yeah, because it is kind of a weird color, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because that guitar is phenomenal. It's another great playing Les Paul. I mean, all of mine are. That's why I have them. Otherwise, I would have gotten rid of them.
And I know it's a little thing. It's just a little thing, but it's almost like, a really good-looking girl and she's got a third eye or something.
Yeah, or like really bad teeth.
You just never know, right? You just never know. And I can imagine, like, you're playing the guitar, it's just totally, you're zoning out, and you're looking down, it's like, oh man,
What's the deal with these pickups?
You know what you need? You know what you could do? Hey, I'm surprised I didn't think about this. Do those neck illusions. Those things, actually, I didn't know much about them, and everyone's talking about them. I've had a lot of guests on here, and it is like a decal, but don't think of it as you're putting stickers on your guitar. Steve Vai does it. I mean, a lot of people are doing it. You could actually make your own custom look on that guitar, and it won't hurt the guitar. They can be pulled off later with no residue. I think you can actually take them off a few times before they won't stick anymore. But trust me, I wouldn't recommend it if I thought it'd be like a little sticker you buy at Staples or something.
Yeah.
No, and maybe that might be the salvation for that guitar.
Yeah, maybe.
You never know, because it is hard. It's hard to look at it, right?
I kind of got over it. I mean, the thing is, it's such a good instrument that something like that will not ruin it for me. Yeah.
No, that's cool. I'm going to try to see if I know I've missed a lot of people. So if I miss anybody in the chat here, just tag me and say, hey, Eric, you missed me. And because I certainly don't mean to miss you, but I scrolled so fast I lost a lot of people. So I'm going to try to pick up where we left off, and I know I'm probably going to be wrong. So Scott DeFouque is here. Let me see. Will Varela, I think I mentioned him. Bam Ozzy is here. Blimpus. Scott Nickerson. I think I mentioned Todd Flowers. Cooch 13. Brad Miller. And yeah, he says Guitar Hack is a bad influence on picking up a Les Paul. him and my friend Johnny.
Yeah.
For sure. And Scott says, a friend of mine recently got an Epiphone Les Paul. Holy hell, that thing weighs a ton. Yeah, they can be heavy. And, you know, some of the higher end Epiphones, you know, like basically at the cutoff point before, you know, they're into the Gibson lineup, Junior has an SG Pro here. And I put in some new humbuckers, you know, really nice kind of DiMarzio style humbuckers in it, and it plays really, really nice. What I like about the guitar is the fact I can just hit that 22nd fret and close my eyes without, you know, not even touching the body of the guitar. I don't like.
Yeah, you got total access. Yeah,
I love that. That's very cool. Let me see here. Gary Davlin, I think I mentioned him as well, too. Just see if I missed anybody else. Like I say, if I have missed you haven't heard me say hi, definitely just tag me, say, Eric, you missed me, and don't feel bad by doing that. I'll say hi for sure. Chuck Booth, Tony Dustin is here. Nico 2 is saying, yeah. Tony Dustin, brand new, $7.99 from Sweetwater Epiphone USA. Gibson P90 outfit, Les Paul. Oh, not bad. Not too bad at all. Rick Hefner. Chuck Booth saying the best guitar I've ever played was an anniversary model. It was a cream with P90s. Beautiful. The guitar shop guy had to pry it from my hands. I wish I would have had more time at NAMM, because I went to the Gibson booth several times, and I'm telling you, man, like that NAMM booth it was basically like its own NAMM. Like, have you ever taken in here in Canada? A lot of people don't know about this. You would know about it, and it'd be in Toronto near you. Did you ever go to MEAC? Have you heard of MEAC?
No.
MEAC is the Canadian NAMM, so that's something you should look into if it's still going, which I'm sure it is. I went there twice with Fender. It was whatever the biggest convention center is in Toronto. I don't even remember it anymore. I could look it up and tell you.
Downtown.
Yeah. Don't know what the center is called, but it's basically NAMM Light. And it would be, you know, almost about, it'd be much bigger than the Gibson booth, but the Gibson booth was almost a miniature NAMM. They had so many Les Pauls, and I didn't get a chance to even really, I looked at them, and I was almost intimidated because there was, like, I'm going to guess probably 300 guitars, maybe much more than that, maybe 500 guitars. Yeah. And I was just picturing myself touching one and then a domino effect, and you know, just that'd have been crazy. And I get this massive bill from Aljon. You know,
I'd get lost in a room like that. I'd never come out.
But they were encouraging to pick them up. It's like, go ahead and play them. And I think they might have had a few specialty ones that were up high, like on the walls that were, you know, for looking only kind of thing. But they were.
Well, I'm still really anticipating the '60s, the new standards / traditionals, whatever they're called standards now.
Yeah. I know that you were asking on my show that one time with Aljon when they're coming out.
Aljon,
Yeah. So obviously here we, as people know us in Canada, we shop along with McQuaid for most of that stuff. And I have a dealer down here too. Sometime you have to maybe come down here for a visit. I'll take you down to a small town where it's only about a half an hour from where we live now, is where we used to live. And they're a Gibson dealer, and he brings in really, really nice stuff. Now, he's an independent, and sometimes those independents can pick and choose a little bit more what they want. They're not forced upon to take this or just give me what you got and we'll take it. They'll pick and choose. Yeah. And maybe come down here, spend a day down here, and I'll show you some of the Gibsons down there. He's got some really cool stuff, some vintage stuff too.
I appreciate that. That would be cool.
Yeah, I'll share the address with you sometime. Maybe when the weather gets nice, come on down for a visit.
Yeah, when the weather gets nice. Yeah.
We were almost getting better. Yesterday was great. You could go outside without a jacket. Today we got cold and rain. What's it like your way?
Yeah, it's still relatively warm, but it was rainy and miserable.
Yeah. It'd be a chicken noodle soup day, and just for Quentin, it has to have ketchup in it. I'm not sure if he ever told you that story, but it's really good. So here again, hopefully I haven't missed too many people here. Mark Kendall is a very underrated guitar player. Love his stuff. He is for sure. He's a great player. Still kicking ass. It sounds like they're going to write a new record with Mitch Malloy now. They've got him as a vocalist, which I thought was a real wake up call, because I went and saw those guys just before the breakup of the singer. They were great. And then next thing you know, Mitch is in the band. I like Mitch too. You know, he's a great singer, but just I didn't picture him in Great White. But it sounds like now that he's fit in so well that they're going to record another album with him on vocal. So that's kind of cool.
That's cool. That's cool. Get a second wind. Yeah.
That's right. Nice. Wally in the box says that Shuriken RS250 is a wild axe. That's a perfect way to segue back to Van Halen. It's a perfect way to segue back. So we were talking about, you put on that delay, and now that song's coming to life. But it also goes to show about that part where I said how Eddie Van Halen stuff is, some of that stuff of the rhythm is so particularly easy for Eddie, and I mean for most people technically, to orchestrate the rhythm, but trying to get the feel of it is impossible. And that's a real nice arpeggiated piece, like almost like an A minor arpeggiation, but that delay adds that sparkle to it. But what I would love to do if I was gigging, if I was doing your gigs, What I would take that shuriken, because I can, with one touch of either the knob on my guitar, or simpler, I have them programmed into my Helix control, my foot controller. When I go to the solo, I could pop on a with the humbucker, I could pop on a sitar, a choral sitar on there as well too, which is buried in that mix.
Yeah,
That'd be very cool. Can you imagine that? All of a sudden, where's the sitar coming from? It's me doing both parts. You know?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That'd be neat. There is another question from Brett Shaver, possibly. There's a spelling error from Nocturnal, but it's just autocorrect. Ask EVH Gear TV, do you think Gibson's new were out of your weight relief process affects guitar's overall tone? I'm not sure what that question means. If it's too heavy for me, whatever, or we're out of weight relief. I'm not really sure. Maybe that person can explain it a little bit further. But I know myself, I don't think I could play a Les Paul for myself. Oh, Gibson's newer Ultra. Okay, there you go. What do I think of Gibson's new Ultra weight relief? Do you know much about that? You're the guy to ask on that. Ultra weight relief.
I mean, there's a lot of variations of the weight relief. I'm not sure of all the proper terms. There's like the Swiss cheese, which is they basically just take holes, from behind the bridge and around. So literally they take holes. Then there's another weight relief, and I don't know what the term is, where they pretty much just carve everything out except for where the mounting is. So it's almost like a shell of a guitar. There's that kind of weight relief.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think they call that the chambered weight relief.
Yeah, that would make sense.
One is chambered, one is traditional, or something. I'm not sure the terminology, but it just makes them more comfortable to play at the end of the day. The thing is, it's crazy. I did a video, do all Les Pauls sound the same? And it's crazy because they all sound different, but they all sound like Les Pauls.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So, and it's not necessarily a thing where, this one sounds better because it's heavier, that one sounds better because it's lighter. It's got, nothing to do with that. I think, if anything, it's more the pickups than anything. Pickup heights and that sort of thing. But, they all sound good, but they all sound like Les Pauls, but they just maybe emphasize different, frequencies, I think. Some are like more high mid, some are warmer, some are lower mids. A lot of that has to do with the pickup height too. Like the Blackie that I use all the time, like that thing, I got to turn up the treble.
Okay. It's more bass.
Yeah, but then I've got a 2016 standard that I got to turn the treble down.
It's too shrill.
Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it still sounds great. They both sound great. If I'm recording in a band, the other one will probably cut through a lot better because it's got that natural bite. This one, I have to make adjustments for it. That being said, I prefer the tone of Blackie because I like more of a, warmer sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, I got the P90 back here, which you would think would be really high and bitey. It is bitey, but it's not an irritating bitey. It's a nice bitey.
Yeah, like not like
nice
mosquitoes.
bitey.
Yeah, not like mosquitoes or saw blades flying at your ears.
Yeah. It sounds fierce. The best way to describe a P90 guitar, I think, is just angry.
Okay.
But good angry.
Now, there again, too, I mean, I'm not afraid to admit it. I've never had a P90 guitar. I've always shied away from them, and I'm kind of scared now because I'm seeing so many changes in my preferences as of late. And I shouldn't say I'm scared. I mean, you should never be scared to try a new thing, and sometimes great results can come. Let me see. The Firebird.
You want to talk about changing?
Complete.
I never would have thought I'd own one of those.
Can you grab it? Do you want to grab that one for a second? Is that within reach? Let's have a look.
Oh, yeah, it's right here. Hang on.
Because we're only seeing a little tiny bit of it on screen. I do like the looks of it. That's beautiful. Look at that thing.
Okay, so if you're in a Kiss, where would you have seen this guitar?
Paul Stanley, right?
Paul Stanley on the cover of Kiss Alive.
Okay.
but different.
Yeah.
His one pickup, no binding on the neck, dot inlays.
Okay.
Because that was the Firebird of that day.
Gotcha.
So, and here's a crazy thing. These are ceramics, which a moment ago I said I don't like.
Yeah, but you do in this guitar.
But they work in this one.
I bet you if you switch those pickups, you wouldn't like it near as much. If you switch them to your preference, you wouldn't like it.
Probably.
Isn't that something? Now, tell us the story and how because I really loved hearing the stories a few times on your stream where you were going to find some Les Pauls, and a couple of them I think you had said I'm really hoping I don't like this Les Paul, and then one you did, and another one I think maybe it was the opposite. You really had your hopes up, and all of a sudden it wasn't the guitar. So how did that one get in your radar?
So I was that as soon as they announced the new 2019 line. Or the second version, 2019.2, let's call it,
okay.
Which is the ones that are coming along. They're starting to blow out the 2018s, which are that one right there, which is the P90 one, okay. And then and they're starting to blow out some of the 2019s as well. The 2019 Classic, like the models that they're not going to continue, and the 2019 Classic has got it's got 61 zebras in it, right, which are great sounding pickups. And I was thinking, okay, I really like that guitar. Prices are coming down. I'm going to try to get one of them. But I wanted the Honeyburst because it comes in Honeyburst, Cherry, and Black. So I was going to go with the Honeyburst. Anyways, so they had, but again, being in Canada, there was one in Oshawa. So I drove out to Oshawa, and I was playing this thing. And, when you pick up a guitar, and it's set up the way you like it right out of the box. And I play this thing, and I'm just like, this is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Just played really, really well, right? But the whole time I'm playing it, because I already own a Honeyburst, that my 2005 with the snotty inlays is a Honeyburst. And I'm playing it, and it's feeling so familiar and playing so familiar, and I had the realization in my head, you know why you like this guitar? Because you have this guitar and it's at home.
Gotcha. Right?
So I didn't get it. And then they had this big blowout sale at the Lon McQuaid, and they had a 2019 Classic at this one store. And I wasn't supposed to look at it or see it because it was strictly there for sale day, which was a Friday that I was working, so I knew I wouldn't be able to make it. But I finagled my way and actually got my hands on it because I have my ways sometimes.
That's cool.
Anyway, and I played the one that they wwere going to throw on sale, and it was not as good as the one in Oshawa.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go. So it looks wise, it actually had a better look to it, but it didn't play nearly as well. So I wasn't bonding with it, right? And then there was a Firebird hanging there, and I asked about the Firebird. And that's the first time I ever played a Firebird, and I couldn't believe how much how did I miss this for all these years? This thing actually plays really, really well. So I ended up getting that on the sale instead of,
Gotcha.
So that's kind of how that went down. But that was like a 2-week turnaround because the Firebird was not even on my radar. And I've already done, trying to remember now, I think 2 shows with it already. Yeah.
And unlike me switching up some gear tonight, having a bit of a technical problem at the beginning of the show, did you find that it really delivered well for you? Throwing something new into the mix that would never normally be in your mix?
The only thing that I found was when I'm soloing, I was missing just a little bit of hair.
Okay.
A little bit of meat on the notes. So, which means I had to play a lot better.
Okay, well, that's a good thing. It's making you play better.
I had to play a lot better. So, and I don't like to use a ton of gain, like I was saying earlier. But when I was playing, the rhythm stuff and the rock stuff, it played really, really well. And it sounded particularly good clean.
Okay.
It's a good clean. It's a different animal. Like I got to do, I'm going to do a video soon where I'm going to be with like an SG and some other guitars. Because it's not an SG, it's not a Les Paul. It's its own thing, and you can't even put your finger on it, And it's its own thing in a good way.
Well, that's good to know too. If someone with the means that wants to buy a bunch of different guitars, now, they might maybe shy away from that guitar because you're thinking, well, I got a nice Les Paul. I don't want it to sound just like a Les Paul. So now they can actually have a few of these different guitars, and if they want to record, actually, this was the thing I was going to bring up to you, and I did mention in your chat one time, it'd be great for recording. Les Paul over here for a rhythm track, or maybe the Firebird over here for a certain track, and it's going to add a nice element on every single song. It's not just going to be, over triple track with a Les Paul.
Yeah, exactly. It's just going to emphasize different part of the spectrum, right? Like just like the SG doesn't sound anything like a Les Paul to my ears, and people say it does, and I'm like, no, it does not. The Firebird doesn't sound like either one of them.
Right.
It's just, I don't know. It's a whole other thing, but a good thing. I mean, it's mini humbuckers too, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So again, it's a different animal. And I owned a Les Paul Deluxe in 1980 years ago and it had mini humbuckers on it. So, but again, those sound different than that one did because again, it's a different spread between the pickups. And what's nice about this too, or I put it down here. Anyway, it's you get complete access all the way up the neck because the neck starts at the body, doesn't come into the body.
Perfect. I'm curious to see how you kind of audition or try out guitars. Or like something I used to do, especially in working in music retail. And I don't normally even like to plug into amplifiers when I'm in a music store, but I'll grab a guitar and I want to hear that guitar sing acoustically, and sometimes I'll even do. So if I'm just Joe customer now going to a music store, if I'm going with a buddy, I'll play it for a little bit, then I'll say, here, play this, and I'll stand in front of him while he's playing, and I want to hear it on the other side of the guitar. I want to feel how it resonates with me. I want to hear the sounds coming off the guitar, and then if it kind of passes that test, if I'm not intimidated too much, I'll plug into an amplifier and I'll play. But I think that's a good call sign of a guitar if it's going to sing beautifully. Like my Variax, which is just a Korean-made guitar, it just sang to me. I mean, it's an ebony fingerboard, which is kind of neat. I haven't had ebony in many, many years. I was trying to figure it out. I was like, this can't be rosewood, but obviously with the CITES thing. And I was like, what is this? And then I looked. It looked like ebony, but I wasn't sure. Yeah. It's Indian ebony. And it just sang, just hit a nice G chord, and it's like, whoa, I cannot wait to plug this thing in. But how do you do it when you're checking out guitars? A little bit of combination of all the above? It
kind of works like this. It's got to draw my eye first.
Okay.
I don't care how good a guitar player it plays. If it doesn't appeal to me visually, I don't even look at it. And then I think for me the big thing is the neck. Okay. If it feels comfortable when I play, if I can instantly pick it up and I can play, and I'm not fighting, I'm playing, then that's a bonus. And like yourself, I'll play it clean first, and I'll play it clean, and then I'll listen. I'll listen to it and hear how much, like you were saying, it rings out and sings and so on, and I'll play it clean for a while. And then one thing that I this is just my opinion, a big mistake is people plug it into an amp and automatically crank the gain. Well, you're not hearing the guitar now you're hearing the amplifier, right?
I agree.
So if I plug it into an amp, what I'll do is I'll just go through whatever pickup selections there are, and just try to find something. Are they all usable? Because a lot of like the Les Pauls, I use the middle, the combination of the two, because a lot of people, will either go neck or bridge. I use that middle position a lot, and I want that variety, and I want them all to sound different, and at the same time, I want to hear that they're all equal in volume, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? And that's a pickup height thing usually, right?
Right.
So that's what I'll do. I'll just audition it that way, and then I'll and then once I've said, okay, it's got a good clean tone. If I put gain on, generally it's just a little bit of crunch. That's it.
Yeah, it's funny because you could, I know this is going to sound silly, but in a music store or in your room, whatever, you could take a $120 Bullet Squire guitar and a $1,000 guitar, and once you get into super saturation range, anything sounds okay. You know what I mean?
Doesn't matter what you're playing.
You don't really, if you were to close your eyes, you might think that the distortion on that one guitar sounds a little bit weak, but you wouldn't think it's $120, Squire, so that is good to play clean for sure. I'm going to just mention a couple more people in the chat, and here's another question for you coming up as well too. So Ron Limber is here. Brett McCord says EMG passive sounds not as bright, but gets some of the awesome growling sound. And he's talking to Brian Cote about some Screaming Demon and stuff like that as well too. R2 says just got a Levy strap for it and looking hooked. Yeah, Levy's in Canada here. People don't know. You must know about Levy's, right? Levy's leathers.
All my straps are Levy.
Aren't they great? I used to sell them at the music store. We were a Levy's dealer.
Oh, they're great, man.
They are probably one of the world's best.
Yeah. And you know, you can get, like, I got some fancy Levies. I got some not so fancy Levies. You know. Yeah. And they're all good straps.
Junior has one here. It's a Levy's as well too, and it's kind of a cartoon illustration of like a lot of famous people, like the Beatles are on it, and I think maybe Jimi Hendrix. And there's just a cartoon illustration, very very colorful, very nice. And I certainly don't endorse or promote, sponsored by those guys. I just like their straps; they're very very good.
Yeah.
Let me see here. So talking about the straps. Scott Roos says, Guitar Hack, do you ever use any of the Line 6 gear? I know we were talking about this on your stream the other night. At this point, no, right?
Yeah. This is the next hole I may be falling into. So I'm thinking, like, to go all full bore into Line 6, I don't know. The way gear works and gas works is it starts off in the back of the brain and then slowly it, makes its way forward. Right?
Yeah.
So right now what's in the back of the brain kind of percolating a little bit is the idea of maybe an HX Stomp.
There you go.
When I get in the summertime, when I got some time, I could see myself maybe getting one of those things and just auditioning it for a month.
Yeah.
And seeing how it works. The thing is, and I say this a lot, Eric, everything I have I use.
I know you do.
With it, everything. Yep. And it has to be super easy and foolproof. And I can play my 45, 50 songs, and I don't have to stress about that because I only want to worry about my playing because I got hard enough time with that. Mm-hmm. I don't have to worry about what's at my feet, And
if you do, I know what that's like too. Trust me, I was always one of those guys where everything has to be going perfectly because once a train wreck starts to, like here again, like this evening, you go off the tracks, and all of a sudden, if you can't recover, then you're pulling the whole band down with you. And that kind of stuff. But I think for you, just by knowing what I know outside the box looking at you, I don't think you would become one of those guys that's going to be a full digital guy. But I think you could integrate something. I've got a stomp here just to show you. That's what it looks like right there. It's about no bigger than probably, like the MXR dual chorus or, it's not much. It's actually about the size of a Strymon pedal, like a Strymon Big Sky or Timeline. It's around that size. Yeah. So it's not a big footprint. And the nice thing about it is it forces you to be somewhat simple. There's only 6 effects blocks on here, right? So, you kind of think a little differently. You can do anything you want. You can have any amp or pedal in the world, but it forces you to use 6 maximum at a time. And that includes an amplifier and effects. So it might be something really cool. Maybe we'll get you to borrow this one down the road. You can try it out for a little while. But it's kind of fun. I think you'd maybe use it in the fact where maybe if you want a completely different amp sound, you know what I mean? You could go to like a Fender Twin or to a Mesa or something like that or whatever, and then if you want to cover even a wider territory of music.
Now, does that have a built-in preamp, or do you still have to run that through an amp?
There are amps. There is a preamps in it, but you don't have to use it in that way if you don't want to. If you don't want to use it as an amp modeler, you can just bypass that completely and just use it as effects as well too.
Okay.
Yeah, and another thing too, maybe, and I'm certainly not trying to push Line 6 stuff on you as well, but also the HX effects. Now that is strictly effects modeling, no amplification. So you let your Marshall do its thing, and if you wanted to go do a simple gig one night, let's say it's a tight, really, I know some of these stages can be really, really tight. You're stuck in a corner. You could essentially show up with the HX effects and your Marshall, because now you can have every chorus pedal in the world. Every tremolo, every modulation, we'll say, every reverbs, all that kind of stuff, and have it, and all with instant access. Snapshots if you want more chorus for the lead, or blah blah blah. I'm making kind of no sense what I'm trying to say. But
I know what you mean. Yeah, you can tweak it.
Yeah, and you could actually have one and still use your amp as its thing. It's pretty cool. But I don't think you would ever become that guy that would be the full digital guy, just because you get great tone. It's hard for some people, including myself, to just plug into an amp and sound good. I could lie and say, I can do that, no problem. No, I can't. I like to have some of my toys in between, and that's just become my security blanket. but you're one of those organic rockers that just can get that sound. And I think a lot of times it's from playing Les Pauls too. A lot of these guys that know that are the organic rockers are Les Pauls into a Marshall. It's kind of it's the old cliche.
My Marshall's right there.
Yeah, I know.
So that's
I know.
me right there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mind you, I do have my pedals though. I gotta say, I have my pedals.
That's right. There's a question, I guess, for me. Bruz Gravely, I think, says, hey, Eric, I bought a Wolfgang Special, and I was wondering if I changed gauge strings from 9 to 10s, would I have trouble staying in tune? This sounds like a very similar question that someone sent me through the Facebook page. And I would say no. If anything, it may help you a little bit. You'll have to do a little bit of a setup on the guitar, though, with the trem springs and everything. Tighten those down a little bit more. You shouldn't have any problems with tuning stability. But it's funny, too, that now that this person mentioned Wolfgangs, when you talked about playing in the middle position, I do that a lot as well too, and Eddie does too with his Wolfgangs, and it's kind of funny. It will give you could be in full blown, a nice really distorted tone. You play in the neck position, and you get that nice. It's not clean by any means, but much cleaner.
Yeah,
and
it warms it up.
Yeah,
right?
and if you roll your volume back, see with the Les Paul, it's a little harder because you got to roll both your volumes back. On the Wolfgang, it's one volume, one tone. But so if I was to roll my volume back even like a third, and I'm on that middle position, holy cow, does that clean up nice?
I just wanted, because I haven't, so folks, usually I'm the one writing the chat. I'm leaving it to Eric tonight, but I did want to say hello to everyone in the chat.
Please do. If you can actually, you want to be the chat guy? Please do it. I can learn from you, man.
I thought I was getting a night off.
Oh, I'm gonna make you work for this one.
So I just want to say hello to everyone, and thank you all so much for popping in and checking this out. It's a short notice, but really appreciate everybody here. You guys rock. Thank you all so much.
I love your
63 people right now.
I love that. I love your family over in the chat. I really, really do. That's one thing one of the people that I follow online and I participate with, I try to watch as many of the shows as I can, and we watch quite a few, and that's thanks to Nocturnal Butterfly. I subscribe to pretty much everybody in the community that's out there doing this stuff, but I just don't always have YouTube open and getting the notifications, so I'll be working down here in my office. I'm working in this office all day, every day, unless I'm out seeing people on the road. She'll text me. She'll say, "Brian's live, Hack's live. Get in there right now." So make sure you give them some support because I just got a great note. She's gonna kill me for saying it. She says, "Don't make him do the chat. He's got a night off." Okay, so you're off the hook.
I'm off the hook.
Yeah, thanks to Nocturnal Butterfly. So double thanks.
Well, I was just last night. I mean, I've been blessed. I don't know what it is. It's my chats. I've had over 80 people the last 3 weeks, and it just absolutely blows my mind. And a lot of these people are in here tonight. And again, I just want to thank you all so much. You guys, you have no idea how mumuch fun it is for me to do this. So you guys always make my day. Always make my day.
I agree with you, and that's kind of what I was saying a moment ago about the people that follow you. They're it's really positive. It's really cool. And, I feel very comfortable in your chat over there as well, too. Like, I felt that I've been welcomed in nice, and it's good. It's a good environment, and I like that. And I saw a lot of that come over here tonight. And fortunately, everyone was patient, got through the technical glitches at the beginning. And I appreciate that for sure. But as we're winding out throughout the program here, let's talk a little bit about the band. So you're playing with, is it 2 right now? Is that correct?
I was with 3, and now I'm down at 2, which is okay.
Yeah, I can imagine. You don't want to become like a Mike Portnoy and being like in 47 bands touring and recording.
No. Yeah, so I'm in 2. One of them gigs a lot. So whenever I mention a gig, it's always with the one band, because somebody was. I know it's confusing to some of the people that want to see my stuff. It's like, well, which band are you talking about? Which one is So there's 2 of them. So there's one where the band is called Rebel Charm.
Okay.
And my wife is the singer. And it's my wife, myself. I have a bass player and a drummer. Actually, the bass player was in the Smoking with the Hack earlier this afternoon. My buddy John. And the drummer, and and that band, we've been together about it's going to be about 3 years. We would like to gig, but it's tough because my drummer has some medical issues, and we've had to stop and start a couple of times because of that. Okay. But I'll tell you something. I get such a rush playing with those guys, not to mention my wife, and I don't know if she's watching, but she's the best singer I know. And I've said that a million times, but it's because it's true. But playing with those guys, that rhythm section, those guys are crazy good musicians. When I auditioned for them, Eric, oh man, probably 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know why these guys even let me in the frickin' room, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Like, I'm like, and then they offered me the gig, the on the spot, and I'm like, are you guys for real? I really had to up my game, and I still, like, that's why, like, these guys push me. I'll do stuff with these guys that I couldn't recreate in any other environment. You know what I mean? It's like when you're playing any sport and you got better players around you, they automatically elevate your game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these guys are world class musicians. Like the drummer, I mean, back in the day, he's put out CDs and that, and he actually used to play with Phil X when Phil X was local. That's how good this guy is.
The connection you're telling me about, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. Michael Braun is his name. Okay. Absolutely phenomenal drummer. And then here's John on the bass, who could kick my ass on guitar, and he's just playing bass.
Wow.
Not that, you know what I mean, just playing.
No, I know what you mean, yeah.
But, yeah, and they, they're going, so far I got them fooled. And then my singer, my wife on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm doing Journey, I'm doing Foreigner, I'm doing The Cult, I'm doing all these bands that I absolutely love that I could, there's like, let's put it this way, I'm the weak link. They can pretty much do anything. I'm the one, like, I don't think I can play that. You know what I mean? It's like Van Halen, mind you, we're doing not one of the easier Van Halen songs, but we're doing one Van Halen song.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really no limit, to what I can do with them. But that's Rebel Charm. And then the other band is called the Hit Disturbers, and that's more like down and dirty bar band. You
Gotcha.
know what I mean? We play bars. That's what we do. We've been together. The two main guys, myself and the main guys, because we've been there from day one, or almost day one. Myself and the singer, who also plays guitar. Last year it just took off, and this year it's taken off even more, where I mean almost every second day I'll get a text, hey, you want to do this gig on this day? Hey, we've got stuff lined up right to December of the year.
Oh, that's good.
This year.
That's good to be booked. Yeah, so because that booking, just like booking booking shows that we do, that is major time consuming. Imagine if you're sitting there trying to call all these bars, okay, can you get us in here? Can you get us in here? Or even just them calling you. That's very time consuming. It's nice to have that calendar filled up.
Yeah, and then if there's gaps. So what happened last year was, and I mentioned this on my show, is Ken, the singer guitar player, he was basically getting all his own shows. We were doing and we were playing good 15, 20 shows a year, not including winter months, because we don't play in the winter until this year and last year. Anyway, and then a couple of agents started contacting us. Usually you've got to find them. They found us. And then, so it's like, okay, so what we did is like, here's a skeleton of what we got. What can you fill in? And then right away, bang, bang. They just started sending us. And then we'd play a gig, and then they'd want us back. So that would turn into 2 shows that year, or 3 shows, or 4, whatever. And then it just kept snowballing and snowballing, where last year I played more shows. I played more shows last year than since my 20s.
Wow.
And this year is gonna blow last year away, because I mean, this weekend I'm playing. It's Friday, right?
Yeah, Friday right now. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm playing tomorrow in Whitby, and then on Sunday in Bolton.
Okay.
St. Paddy's Day thing Sunday.
That'd be
so
fun.
That's an earlier show, and then Saturday night in this crazy bar in Whitby.
Oh boy, who knows what you're gonna get there?
Yeah, it's nuts.
That's
why I'm taking Blackie. They can spill beer on it again, and it's okay.
Well, everyone's gonna be there to party. They're gonna be probably half partied out by the time they even get there.
Yeah.
So it's one of those ones where, unless you sucked, unless the band, I'm saying you, I mean the band in general, unless the band went in there and was just horrible, you probably already got a good crowd. You know what I mean? So all you do is your regular thing.
Well, this is our 4th time.
Yep.
So we know what it's like, and they ask for us back, which is why we're going back. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm just and then and that's one of the few places that I can really play loud, because the DJ comes on the breaks,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just pounding, and I'm like, okay, all right, we can up the amps now.
That's right, because you can't go down, because even the people there, the patrons, are going to expect a volume level now at this point.
Exactly.
So you can't be lower than that. You don't necessarily have to be louder, but at least you've got a nice ceiling now that you can be at. Yeah. Well, that's
So
cool.
that's when a Marshall will get to roar, is Saturday night.
Oh, for sure. Well, here's a couple questions about actually the band itself. I want to ask you, go back just for a second about, you mentioned that your wife being the singer, and obviously you're saying how good she is. So she's obviously had some experience for many years. Did you meet your wife through music, or is it something she just got into over the past few years? And what's it like working with her?
Well, no, my wife's been singing forever, but no, we met with nothing to do with music. But when I met her, she was in a wedding band.
Oh, cool! That's a good gig.
And she played keyboards. So when I met her, she was already playing with this band, and they would actually rehearse in her house, in her basement. And it was a drummer, her on keyboards, and a bass player, and that was it. So then I met her, and I show up, and of course it's music. So I'm like, I play guitar, and then but at that point I wasn't really doing it much, so I kind of had to work at it, to because they were doing gigs, and I had to kind of get up to a level that I could play their stuff and whatever, and I did, and so I got into that band, and then we were doing a lot of shows, and a lot of festivals and stuff like that, and then when we got she's from Kingston originally.
Okay.
And then I'm from Toronto, and then when we moved to Toronto, there was no bands, there was nothing, and then we hooked up with this well-known drummer. This is in the wedding. This is a different industry. It's a wedding band thing. He'd been in a really popular band, and he was looking to reform one, and so. That was him on drums. It was my wife, myself, and then we had this other guy playing, John. His name was John, playing bass. And then we did. We were playing every weekend. If I got 2 weekends out of the year, that was a lot.
Like
every weekend.
2 weekends off, you mean? 2
weekends off a year.
Yeah.
It was Friday, Saturday. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was, if we only did the one Saturday, that was an easy week. And we played all over Ontario. We did things like I don't know if you're familiar with the Chin Picnic.
No.
Okay, the Chin Picnic, it's like basically the exhibition. They have this giant picnic, and it's all like, international. They bring in international stars from all over Europe.
Okay.
And they cater to all the communities, the ethnic communities in Toronto, and so we did that a couple of times. I played Ontario Place a couple of times.
That'd be a fun
I
gig.
played in California. We did a lot, and that was good. That was good times. But I literally got worn out, and after 4 years, and then it's like, you know what, I just want to play in a rock band.
Yeah.
And then I went from making a lot of money to making no money.
I know. I that's one of those things where I had an epiphany one day. With our band, we started off as a cover band, and a cover band to get in the door, and then we'd sneak our originals in to all original, and then we'd sprinkle on a couple covers as remakes. And when you go all original, you think the money's bad as a cover band. I mean, we'd be lucky at some gigs to even get enough money to go to Tim Hortons and get a sandwich to split with 4 or 5 people. You know what I mean? That sucked. So I remember when I having my epiphany, after having band members come and go. We were a band from 2000 to 2012. A lot of different members. And towards the very end of the career of it, right around the 2010-ish, we got 2 new guys, and they had stars in their eyes thinking we're going to be famous overnight, and like we'd already had 10 years behind them, and we didn't make it. We got close. We did some showcases for Roadrunner Records and stuff like that, and they liked the band. They just didn't necessarily gravitate towards the singer. And so this one day, the singer is like, he texts me, and I'm at work when I'm working at the radio station. He goes, "Practice on tonight?" And it was getting to the point where going to band practice rehearsal was more of work than my work. And it was like sometimes I would hope someone would call me 5 minutes before practice and say, I'm sick,
Yeah,
we can't practice tonight.
I know that feeling.
Or else I would even do it. Guys, I can't make it tonight.
Dragging your heels.
Yeah. And you just going through the motions. And I kind of did a dumb move, but it was the move I made at the time. I just said, nope, no practice tonight. No, and matter of fact, we're done. And I think they're probably thinking I'm joking on the other end of this text message. And I was the last remaining original member of the band, and I pulled the plug. And it was like, instead of taking a Band-Aid and ripping it off a really bad cut with the hairs on your arm, I just went, yick, and I ripped it up. Yeah, because that flashed before my eyes. When you see all these beautiful things in your life, it was the opposite. It was breaking down on the 401 in a motorhome with no heat in the middle of winter, with your exhaust pipe hanging on the ground, tying it up with guitar strings, coming home at, 8 o'clock in the morning when the sun's coming up from Toronto or wherever, and, basically gelling your hair back and going to work smelling like death. Every horror story you can think of, like almost getting killed at gigs, it's like, I'm done. And I just never went back.
Well, I got stories, man. I mean,
let's hear a couple.
Working overtime on a Saturday, doing a gig Friday night, getting at home at, I don't know, 3:30 in the morning. Mind you, I'm in my 20s, so you're bulletproof, right?
Easier.
And then the next morning, getting up at 7, going to work overtime, and then playing a gig that night again, and then possibly Sunday as well. I did that. And then the thing is too, like, I mean, at the time I was I worked on construction, and here's a story for you, actually. I cut my finger right here.
Uh-oh.
In its finger, like a big gash, like right here, that I couldn't stop it from bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a gig that night, and I was wiping blood off my strings literally after every song.
I'll bet, yeah, because that's your hands are getting warm and sweaty. Even if the wound did close up, I can imagine it's opening back up and bleeding all over your neck.
And then I couldn't play guitar because it would just keep opening up, and it was, oh man, that was bad. Like, yeah, but you know what? When you're that age, you can do all that stuff. I mean, it's not a bad thing, right?
Yep.
And then like we made really, really good money back in the day. The wedding band business in the early 90s was before all the DJs started coming in. It's funny, I call it a wedding band because we were playing like ethnic music and top 40. We did Madonna and stuff like that as well, and dance music, Ace of Base and stuff like that. But we only actually did one wedding. It was all these clubs.
Okay.
There were all these clubs. It was like a circuit, and they all had bands every single weekend.
Nice.
And we would rehearse once a week, and we would play 3 nights a week. It was just, I mean, the band was tighter than, oh my God, I knew what the guy was, when he was going to breathe,
yeah.
It was crazy, it was, I tell you, it was like a business.
Yep.
Everything was chop, like, like loading in, loading out. We had all this rack gear. We'd bring that out on stage. We had these elites that were like PA speakers, that these things were like 3 feet high. And then we bought another set.
Nice.
We had our own lighting rig. We had, it's so much gear. But you know what? We'd set that stuff up, have it all ready to go, break it down in the van, done. Like,
routine.
It was beautiful.
Routine. It's funny, too. I was always the designated guy in the band. While I imposed it on myself. First of all, I became the guys, the band sound man, wherever we didn't have a gig. So I brought all the PA. I did all the mixing, everything like that, too. But Nocturnal Butterfly will tell you this story. Like, especially the singers. The gig's over at 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever, and the singer was the first one out the door. See, I'm gone. He's carrying his microphone and his hat, And I'm in there, and because I'm doing the PA and everything, I've got all the mic cords, all the guitar cords, and the one thing I will not do, I'm anal about this, I won't just take the cords and throw them in the bin. I wrap them the particular sound crew, like the sound crew would wrap. So next time I get to a gig, I can go and roll out a 50-foot mic cable, and there's not a knot, there's nothing. And I'm not on top of that. I'm taking rags and wiping the cords down, wiping all the beer,
my God,
wiping the beer off these cords and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, beer.
I got it down to a good, pretty quick job. But it just that being that guy saves a lot of problems and hassle at the next time, because when you get out there, you got like 5 cords all stuck together now. It's preventative maintenance for the next gigs. But right. I the only time I ever made good money with bands, and it was very, very rare in my career. But when I played with a tribute band, I was making as much in one night myself as what my other band would make the entire weekend as a band. It was that was good back then. That's it'd be like the Torontos and the we played up in Barrie and things like that. And I'll share a funny story. Next time I have you on the show, I'll tell you about my food poisoning story eating up in Ottawa. I'll just give you a hint of it. We're up in Ottawa. We're playing at a place. It's kind of like a sports bar, whatever. And we get food and beer and pay for the weekend. We're there for 3 nights and hotel lodging and everything. And we're at the nickel capital of Canada, and everyone's eating nice and safe. Well, what do I eat? I eat fish, the local fish. And I call it nickel fish or square fish. And so I ate it, and within 15 minutes of even hitting my stomach, like you could hear my stomach was louder than the conversation at the table.
Oh, yeah.
And I got food poisoning, and I'll share the rest of the story later because it's a very, very gross story.Maybe I might even tell you this one off the air. But it affected my performance in ways that no one would ever care to experience.
I would guess, yeah.
I'll say this without giving the visual. We started off with Jump. We had when 1984 would come on. We had all the dry ice machine. The stage is all filling up with whatever, and then the keyboards go in. We had a keyboard player. Went right into Jump. We get to the chorus. The very first time I jump, I come up, and I jumped up and I landed, and I wasn't just the. It was a mess. We'll say.
Yeah.
But anyways, I want to talk about another thing too. You have a great thing as well too. With you're wearing a really, really cool shirt right now, right? And
Guitar Hack.
Yes, you do that for charity, and all your proceeds go to charity. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know we've already got the link. Nocturnal Butterfly's already shared it in the side chat there, but tell us about it.
Well, I've mentioned this a number of times in the on my channel, but for those of you that don't know, and I'm sure a lot of people, this isn't specific to me. A lot of people have been affected by cancer one way or the other, either personally or family members. I lost my dad 7 years ago. My mom has it currently. Right now she's in remission, but last year was a year from hell. I lost my best friend. I could go on and on. So my wife and I, actually that Rebel Charm Band, the 2 of the gigs that we did was my wife organizes a cancer charity event. Where we have 3 bands play, and the headlining band is I call them a real band because I got a recording contract and so on. And we've had we've done that a couple of years. And when she was trying to remember or trying to think of a name for the event, of course, me and my infinite wisdom, what I really want to say is, but I can't, so I call it Rock Off Cancer. Okay. Right. So we've raised a fair bit of money doing that. And then a few months ago, like around January, December, somebody in the community, I don't know if she's in here, Kaylin, she calls herself Chicken Guitars. She's a sweetheart. I've seen that name a million times in different places. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. So she decides one day, your channel, at the time I think I had 300 subs. I'm gonna make you a logo, for you to make merch. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of sitting there going, that's really not what I want to do. I mean, the merch thing, right? And I'm not saying this to, against anyone that does it for whatever reasons. That's not where I'm going. For me, this whole YouTube thing is really a hobby. I do it for fun. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking at it as a business thing. It's just a thing that I like to do. Just like I like playing music. I don't make any money at it. I just love doing it. It's a passion. Yeah. It's a passion. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't feel right about, taking money because, again, I'm not trying to build a business. And then it struck me. It's like, what? Why don't I'll do the merch thing and maybe do it as a fundraiser. So, and I went live from the Hack Shack, and I put it out there. And I had a bunch of people. I'm like, look, I got an idea. The video's still up somewhere in one of my playlists. I got an idea. What do you think? And everybody's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Because I wanted to make sure I had the support, of my subs at the time. And they liked the idea. And so there it is. So with the help of Kaylin, and I should also mention my good buddy Jason Wade, they helped me set up the Teespring store, which is what I use. You know, so Kalen, this design is Kalen's. All my stuff is, you know, the cup.
Very nice. I like
That's
that
all.
too. Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
decorative.
yeah. And then I went to the website and I just basically threw the logo on T-shirts and stickers and mugs and hoodies and all that kind of stuff. And at the back, well, I can't see the back, but it says "Rock Off Cancer," so it's sort of a tip to the hat to that original
Yeah.
charity that we did. And you were nice enough to buy some. I don't know if it's for yourself or for you. You mentioned your wife,
For Sandra, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and thanks to you, I cracked the $300 mark, and I've
Nice.
sold over 50 items,
Great.
which is absolutely bonus. That's fantastic.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And so I'm just gonna let it ride and let it build up, and then you know, and then eventually pull the money out, and then
Donate
and
it.
you know, I'll share this with everyone, and I'll, you know, without giving them my personal information.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good feel-good story, man. And
Yeah, and
I
then
know.
donate that all to the Canadian, specifically the Canadian Cancer Society. And I should mention, anyone that has bought stuff, merch, what I ask everyone to do is send me a photo
Nice, wearing it or
if
something.
you're wearing the merch or something. And then what I do is I've got my Facebook page, the Guitar Hack Facebook page. I've got the Guitar Hack Instagram. Then I will post that. And I'll tell you something really nice too. A gentleman named Ivan Carter yesterday sent me a card, an email card,
Okay.
and he had bought a shirt, but he wanted to donate again. So what he did was he sent me a card, and he said this donation to directly the Canadian Cancer Society on behalf of Guitar Hack.
Wow. Isn't that something? That's very heartwarming.
It just blows my mind, you know.
I
It
know.
really does. Yeah,
Well-
it's awesome. Like the support I've gotten, you know, it's just great. It warms the heart, you know.
You're preaching to the choir here when it comes to cancer too, because in both Nocturnal's family and my family, we've had cancer. You know, it took my mom, and it's played havoc on our family tremendously as well too. So definitely a great thing. I think that's awesome. It's a very, very good thing what you're doing, and I'm glad to see that you hit a bit of a milestone yesterday. That's really awesome. I certainly wasn't, I just happened to be lucky to be in there at the time. You know, it's like the Nocturnal's like, I like that pink shirt. I liked it. She wanted the pink one. It had to be pink. So I'm like, okay, I got it. And so I even got a confirmation already too. I think it's being processed and shipped or something. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's gonna take you a month to get though. It took me a month to get. I ordered the mug, and I got a shirt for me and the two kids, and it took like a month.
I know one thing I could say
takes a
it's
while.
fast for people in the United States because we use Teespring as well too. So the people in the States get them pretty fast. So that's
Yeah,
big. It's just us, Canada. You know, it's the nature of the beast, right? We're kind of late to
It's
the.
gonna be stuck at the border for 3 weeks. Usually, what happens.
Oh, I know, and I've had the worst luck in shipments recently with stuff at the border. It's just been horrible. But talking about sharing things on your Facebook page here too, we're going to wrap up in a second. But this kind of involves you a little bit too over on our side of our Facebook page. We've got a really cool contest on right now. It's a giveaway, and there's no hoops, no strings. It does nothing for us here on our channel. It's not to get more subscribers on YouTube or Facebook likes or anything like that as far as we're concerned. But Nocturnal Butterfly had this cool idea to run a guitar showcase contest. It's just basically show us a picture of you playing your favorite guitar or one of your guitars and send it in to us. Now the submissions are now done. We can't take any more submissions, but at least now you can vote for your friends' photos and that. You're pictured in one of the pictures. I think it's with your Firebird. I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it was the first night with the Firebird.
Yeah, that's cool. So if you go to facebook.com/EVH Gear TV and you go to photos, you'll see the Guitar Showcase Gallery. And all you got to do is look for one of your friends and your favorite. You can probably vote on multiple. There's no reason why you couldn't. But whoever ends up with the most likes at the end of the duration, which is it's the first couple weeks into April is when we pull the plug on it, is going to win one of those really, really cool Diodac Ghost guitars or a light-up LED light. I've got one made after one of my guitars. I wish I could show you. It's off camera at the moment. But they're very, very cool. They look like a hologram light. They're all
they
LED.
look cool.
Yeah, and you can change the colors. You can have them fade or blink, whatever. And there'll be about, I'm just going to say between 3 to 6 models to choose from. I don't want to commit to how many there is to choose from to be one prize, but it was whatever he has available, and you'll be able to pick from whatever he shows, and the winner gets one of those. So that'll be a really cool prize. So you're in there, so come vote for Hack and vote for everybody else that you like in there too. I want to be fair. I want to say vote for everybody. I don't want to say just for you.
Just vote for me.
Yeah, but you've been doing really cool.
I think it's really cool. Yeah, it's very cool.
You've been doing really cool sharing it. You're doing the right thing. You're sharing it to get some of your friends to pick up on it, and this is is what's funny about it is, there's nothing for us to gain out of this one, and I wanted to be so transparent about this one, because we've done some contests before. We hopefully people come over and subscribe to us and things like that. There's really nothing for us to gain, and I like to joke about it. It's kind of Nocturnal's own selfish way of getting to look at a whole bunch of guitars. That's why she wanted to do it. She loves looking at guitars. So here's a better way to do it. Send me your guitars, right?
Yeah, and before I forget, when you get that shirt, make sure you get your wife to take a photo so I can post that.
Guaranteed.
Share that with everyone.
Guaranteed. I would wear it on the air, but it would look a little funny on me. So but I'll order a black one. I'll get a black one. I'll order one of those as well too. Yeah, I've been tending now lately. I like my shirts like this shirt that I'm wearing right now. I like the fit of it, but I normally now I start to buy shirts bigger than what I need, and then I'll wash them and dry them because I normally never dry my shirts, any of my shirts. Right. I've got like probably 50 Van Halen shirts up in the closet, and it almost seems like I'm wearing the same one every show, but I'm not. But I don't dry those. I wash them, I hang them to dry. But what I'll do is I'll buy, and even some of the new shirts I'm buying from myself to wear on the show as well too. I wash them, buy them bigger, and then dry them so they'll shrink to fit. Because I imagine there is a bit of shrink in these shirts. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to thank the support I've gotten for that. There's a few people in the chat that were nice enough to buy some merch, and thank you all so much for supporting that. It's awesome. That's good, and I thank you too on your behalf. That's really, really nice. It's nice to see the support in the community. Could not go to better places, and one day it may make a difference. You know what I mean? Every bit helps. Well, let's hope. I mean, it's I don't know why there isn't more, going in that direction, because I don't think there's anyone on the planet who hasn't been affected. In one way or another. I think what it is, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole either, but I don't want to say too much bad about Big Pharma, but I just think it's a profitable thing right now for the medical industry to not have a cure. You know what I mean? Sadly, I think that's what it's like. It's like I'd really hate to think that way, but I know. But I mean, why are so many people suffering? We can launch a Tesla car and have it orbit the moon, the Earth. We can do all this other kind of crazy stuff. We've got technology in our pockets that is insane. Why don't we have a shot right now, or a pill or something that will take that away? It's hard to fathom with today's technology, but it all comes down to money. Sadly, money makes the world go round, and maybe the money for donations and support and research, hopefully we'll get there. Maybe not in our generation, maybe if it's our kids' generation, I'd be happy with that. Possibly even our grandkids' generations, who knows, but as long as it happens. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. For sure. Well, I want to say I'm sorry to anybody in the chat that we might have missed. There's probably a whole bunch of you, and especially if they're new, if they're fans of yours as well too. I certainly didn't mean to miss them, but having a bit of a technical difficulty at the beginning of the show obviously throws me for a bit of a loop. But I want to say I'm very blessed to have your families of people come over here. They're very good people, all of them, the guys and girls. Awesome people. They're good people. I'm honored to have you here, and if you happen to be new here on the channel because of Guitar Hack here today, if you decide to come back, I do promise you this, I'll work just as hard to keep you entertained. You don't even have to subscribe if you're not ready to subscribe, but if you want to, that's awesome. If you don't feel Eric's still on probation, I'm fine with that as well too. But if you do come back, I'll do my very best to make it entertaining for you and worthy of a return visit. And same thing too, there's probably a few people, not very many, that you didn't know from my family, but they come over that way as well too. Yeah, I was just going to say that if anyone is new to me, check out my channel. Have a look, see if it's anything that you like. It's really casual. It's kind of this. It is. Well, I've given my testimonial many times. I don't give a testimonial on something because my name's on it, right? If I'm giving a reference to something, I better be good. And for a fact, because you told me many times, like, a lot of times I'll be talking to guests. Oh yeah, that's my buddy Guitar Hack. You got to go check out his channel. And I wouldn't be saying that if I didn't 100% believe in it. It's good stuff. You know what? I got to tell you this, Eric. I mean, you have been so supportive of my channel. I mean, you're a much larger channel, and I'm always taken aback when somebody like yourself or any other big channels takes an interest in a little guy like me, and I really, really appreciate that. I mean, all the shout outs and
having me on today, like this, just absolutely blows my mind. I don't think I've ever been interviewed before.
Well, listen, numbers
This is
mean
very cool. This was very nice.
well. I've enjoyed it as well too. I was greatly looking forward to this. And numbers don't mean success. Numbers do not mean success. Look at numbers as I've worked in advertising for many, many years. Numbers are used in circulation when you're trying to pitch ads to people. Okay, well, we've got, back in the newspaper days, we've got potentially 65,000 people that'll read this paper. So here's how much your ad should be, sir. And this is why you want to be advertising with us. That's where it really matters. When you're trying to sell something. We're not trying to sell something here. We're just trying to talk about the love of guitar, maybe certain bands. And on my show, when I'm interviewing, some of the guitar players and stuff like that, we want to learn more about their history, that kind of stuff. We're not selling anything. It's just fun. So never think of yourself as the little guy. Speaking to you, speaking to Vernon Reed, speaking to any of these other people is just, I'm talking to a dude that loves guitar, and those guys are just dudes that love guitar too, and girls. Some of the girls.
That's funny enough. What I find, because I have guests on every week.
Mm-hmm.
Every week I have a guest, and I've had some really, really big channels on.
Mm-hmm, you have.
And it surprises the hell out of me that they agree to come on. That's a blessing.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, people I've never met. And it's just because of that common thread of guitars and music, it's like right away the switch is turned on, we hit it off, and at the end of the conversation, 99% of the time, it's like I usually tell the guests, like, I feel like I've known you for 20 years.
Yeah, you really get to know them.
What I mean? Because there's no awkward silence. It's just, it flows, it goes. And then I'll look at the time, and then it's like, oh, wow, we've already been on for an hour. It clicks.
It does.
And it's all because of the love of music and the love of guitars. It's phenomenal.
The funny thing, really, I look at it is that sometimes it might sound kind of weird to people that are normally coming here to be talking about gear and really want all the gear talk. Sometimes the less we talk about gear, the more fun the actual show becomes, because we have an agenda, we have a purpose, and of course we're going to probably spend 60 to 80% of the night's time on gear. But hearing like growing up in the trenches and what you did, and where you're working in a construction gig, things like that, it's like it really hits home. And a lot of the artists that I've interviewed, sometimes it's like the things that people don't know about. The people watching from the other side are feeling like they're sitting in the living room with us or whoever the guest may be, as opposed to like a very sterile kind of regimented thing. It's a fun hang, is what it is.
Yeah. And in my experience, like I said, like yourself and most of the people that I've had on, I won't say all because it can never be all.
No,
but 90% have been fantastic, and I get a lot of people coming back for that reason, because it's so much fun. And they always agree to come back, and I love having them back, because it's just a good, like yourself. I can't wait to have you back on at some point.
Thank you.
It's always a good time, right?
Well, I know why they like coming on, and I know why you like doing this as well too. Like, you come on my show, I was on your show last week, and even though it's a bit of a nervous thing for you and I, because this is what we do every week, it's a nice break for us. It's still work, because we're still kind of like, I want to make sure I do a good job for Hack, when I'm on your show, and and you want to make sure you're prepared as well here too, stuff like that. But it's a nice break, and it kind of takes us. It's it's a kind of a night off in a way, if that makes sense, but not really. Does that make any sense? A little bit of a less pressure, I guess.
Well, the hard thing, it's so hard for me to resist.
I know.
Looking at my.
I know.
I'm like, don't look at that. Don't look at that.
The thing for me, my biggest flaw is the darn chat. It seriously is. You do a really good job on that, so hats off to you on that.
Tough.
I mean, you as an overall, everything you do, like, I mean, if you were if there was a person to go around and grade YouTube channels and say, oh, this and this and this, you'd have a very, very nice score across the board. It's like, let's say you do like your driver's test. Okay, so parallel parking, okay, good there. Your over the shoulder check. You get all these grades and everything you do. So yours, all those different things, interacting with the guests, the chat, the quality content, the stories, the dialogue, the lack of dead air. You'd have a great score across the board. So hats off. Just keep doing what you're doing, man.
I appreciate that. I've been told, because I can't handle compliments just to say thank you, so I'm just going to say thank you.
The same way. See, you and I have a lot in the same. If somebody
Can't
says
handle compliments.
I know. It's like I would rather pass it off to my bandmates or whatever. Someone else
Yes.
pass it off to Sandra. I'll just compliment Sandra. She'll take it. We'll give it to her. But
Yeah.
I appreciate
exactly.
it, man. Well, listen, don't go away. We'll say goodbye to you off the air. Everyone from Guitar Hacks family, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And hopefully the families can all get together and have a virtual dinner and a big hug session here. Have a great weekend. And we will see you very soon. Don't forget to take a look at that merchandise link down in the description below and the link to the channel. Subscribe, and you'll probably see me in multiple of those streams. We'll see everyone soon.
Thank you, everybody. You guys rock. Thank you so much.
Until next time, guys.
Cheers.
Hey, you're still here? Eric Jr. here, reminding you to check out our full lineup of quality merch. Available right now in the Broadstash Boutique. Quality products and fast shipping. Visit broadstash.com today.
I am now on Patreon. If you enjoy my content and wish to support my channel and what I do, then please check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/evhgeartv. Your support assures the continued growth of this channel and a fun community in which to share our love for Van Halen, music gear, and much more.
My name is Eric and I've been looking guitar.
Video production services provided by Design 39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for EVH and Gear TV are provided by Rode Microphones, and official Van Halen merchandise is provided by VanHalenStore.com.